Are they going to use this Iran war as a reset and get back to the basics instead of all these worries about money? I want to know where my next guest stands on all that stuff. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Mike Lee. Mike Lee Strategy coming to us from down in Florida, the great city of Sarasota. Thanks for being on, Mike. We're just talking off air. Yeah, we're finally starting to shake off some of the dust and get going here. These horses have started to run, but is this a war, kind of a reset? Because, boy, we were kind of lagging moving into the month of March. It feels like that a little bit to me. What do you say?
Well, look, I think the market has just come to really, I guess it's nothing new. They just doubt Trump, that he doesn't want, the economy to do well and the market to do well, and that he's just this crazy person. Maybe he's certainly unorthodox and might seem crazy to you, but to think that he doesn't want ultimately a positive resolution to whether it's tariffs, whether it's trade negotiations, whether it's Iran war, for a positive outcome for the U.S. and the U.S. economy, it leaves a lot to be desired. And so that creates some unbelievable opportunities. And these AI stocks, these tech stocks have just absolutely ripped off their lows, with the exception of some of these software as a service stocks. And it's important to understand, like, even with good earnings, these SaaS stocks. So if you look at a ServiceNow, the way these companies charge currently is that everyone who has a login, everyone who uses it, you pay a license fee. The argument is that a lot of these are going to go to a per use fee. And so this long-term visibility into what their cash flow is going to be, what their profits are going to be, there's a dark cloud over that. And so the multiples, the price to earnings multiples, the price to sales multiples have contracted greatly. And I think for some of that stocks, like a ServiceNow, that's probably warranted. For some of these other stocks, like, say, Palo Alto Networks and CrowdStrike, that's not warranted at all. Like, the more we're going to be using AI, the more that's going on out there in the computers, the more need for your cybersecurity is. And every single person in the entity needs to have cybersecurity. So I think it's still, like, a lot of these names are getting more complex by the minute in terms of their business models and what they actually do. So it's hard for a lot of people to sort through it. But look, the AI infrastructure names have absolutely ripped. If you look at a name like Marvell or Micron, these stocks are up like 100% this year. Micron, like 300%. And I don't know that these types of returns are going to stop happening, because the build out we're looking at for AI, we just heard $700 billion in CapEx over the next 12 months from the top 4 hyperscalers. And that doesn't include Oracle.
I mean, that's just astounding, number one. I'd also add to what you said to kick things off with, I understand people's reticence about what Trump might say or what he might tweet. But you know what? That's just the sideshow to me. I actually look at what he does and what he's been doing. If you look at the grand scheme of things, about all the reshoring, all of these companies, the outside investment that he's gotten for the U.S., and then what he's been doing with Venezuela, what he may do with Cuba, what he's doing with Iran. I mean, look at what he does instead of what he says all the time, and you probably can have a little bit of a clearer picture of what's going forward, because that he wants the best for the country and the economy. And sometimes, the tweets and what he says gets a little crazy, but that's just a sideshow. You should trust his gut and your gut and look at the actual receipts about what he does. So I think that's helped me a lot, because you know what? We talked about it I talked about it with yesterday on this show about it's hard to buy in the hole. I mean, I know what it feels like. You just kind of have to hold your nose and turn your head and buy it, because that this time next year, these are going to be higher stocks because they are good companies doing well and are just getting caught up in the fray. And that's going to be something that you have to kind of get over. And everybody needs to know that Mike and I have been doing it a long time. I've been doing it a lot longer than Mike, but we've been doing it a long time. And sometimes it's hard for us to buy, even though we know we should do it. We still do it. That's the difference, right? So that needs to be said. I think that the folks out there that watch, it's not easy for anybody, no matter how long you've been in the market, correct?
Yeah, look, it was a little bit depressing looking at this stuff 4 and 5 weeks ago. And like now, every time I open up my screen, you're doing victory laps. So so quickly the world, it's so quickly the world can change. But it's again, it's with this Trump stuff. You got to understand that your interests are aligned with his. Okay, in that
Yes.
he wants to win for the country, and it might not happen the way you want it, but to think that he's going to do something detrimental to the economy without some sort of greater purpose that's ultimately a victory. It's you just haven't been paying attention. You're buying into too many media narratives. So I think I still, from a pure investment standpoint, it's hard to figure out who are going to be the winners in software because there's so much unknown. It's happening so fast. But in terms of the infrastructure, the nuts and the bolts, okay, there aren't enough chips, there aren't enough data centers, there's not enough energy, and so all the different suppliers and part makers up and down in this. Like you're in a massive supply-demand imbalance, which is going to preserve pricing power, which means earnings are probably going to be much higher than the street expects. So with that, with higher revenue growth, higher earnings growth, you not only get a higher stock prices, you get higher price. You're going to get price to earnings multiple expansion with this tailwind coming behind you. So the market just ripped, especially for technology. I think we're going to keep going until, hopefully we don't get into war with Russia and then we got to sit through this whole thing again, right? But
well, I tell you what, before we go, I got 20 seconds. I want to ask you this one question, right? You know what? Look, higher earnings, revenues, jobs, margins, GDP, everything is going in the right direction. The only thing we got to get over is Iran, like you said. Hopefully we don't have anything else of that. And once we see that oil price get down to, 70, 60 maybe, I can't be bullish enough. Where do you stand on that?
I'm with you 100%. And I think Warsh is going to come in and he's going to cut rates like trueflation. Again, we're sub 2%, right? So you're going to get a backdrop from that. It's all coming together for the benefit of the American public.
Awesome stuff. Love having you on a Friday. Great stuff as usual, Mike. Mike Lee, Strategy, Sarasota, Florida. Have a great weekend. We'll see you again next.